This is John from the freegiftfromgod.com podcast. Today I'm continuing with this discussion that I'm having, this series that I'm doing on the words of Jesus and the teachings of Jesus. And I want to start today in John chapter 2 and look at the first of the miracles that Jesus did. And this is interesting. In John chapter 2, verse 1, it says, "On the third day there was a marriage at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also was invited to the marriage with his disciples. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, 'They have no wine.' And Jesus said to her, 'O woman, what have you to do with me? My hour has not yet come.'" Now here he's saying that, look, I'm not ready. It's not the time yet. But he was obedient to his mother. And we need to be obedient to our parents. That was one of the 10 Commandments, to obey your parents, that your life may be long in the land. It says it's the first commandment with a promise. So he was obedient to her. His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now 6 stone jars were standing there for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, "Fill the jars with water," and they filled them up to the brim. He said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the steward of the feast." So they took it. When the steward of the feast tasted the water, now become wine, and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the steward of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, "Every man serves the good wine first, and when men have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." This, the first of his signs Jesus did at Cana in Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Now, there's a few things that we can pick out of this particular miracle that Jesus did when he turned the water to the wine. Interestingly, first enough, it was the first miracle that he did. Now, I know that there are a lot of Christians who will not drink alcohol, will not drink wine. I mean, I'm one of them. I don't drink alcohol at all. It's not to say I never did, but I used to many, many, many years ago, but I probably haven't had a drink for 45 years, 50 years, something like that. So there is this prevailing thought that, drinking is a sin. It's not. Drinking is not a sin. Drinking to excess is debauchery, and that can lead to sin, but drinking itself is not a sin. And it's interesting that the first miracle that Jesus did was to turn water into wine. And so he's showing, it's okay to drink wine, just don't go nuts on it, Don't drink it and get drunk and go on a binge or a bender or something like that. To drink a little wine is not a problem. And even Paul said to Timothy, in the one of the letters he wrote to Timothy, he said, "Drink a little wine for the sake of your stomach and your many ailments." So he told him to drink because he had some stomach problems. Anyway, so that's the first thing. To drink wine is not an issue. But the second thing he did, when he turned the water into wine, he made good quality wine. It was the best quality wine. The steward of the feast, he said, "Taste of the water now become wine," and did not know where it came from. The steward of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, "Every man who serves the good wine first, and when men have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." So Jesus did a marvelous thing. When he gave them good wine, he actually honoured the bridegroom in the feast. He gave him honour by allowing him to providing him with good wine, very good wine, and so it elevated him. He did a good thing for the bridegroom. Now, there's another analogy here too. When Jesus gives us wine, he often talks about wine as being like the knowledge and understanding. He talks about new wine is for new wineskins and old wine is for old wineskins. And what he's talking about there is the teachings. Now, the teachings of the Lord is new wine, and it's good wine. His teachings, the teachings of Jesus, are good. They are the best teachings that you can possibly get. And that's the analogy here with this wine, this water turned to wine. It was the best wine that's probably ever been produced on planet Earth. I can't prove that, but that is what I would expect. But what we see is that the teachings of Jesus are the best teachings because they bring life. The teachings of Jesus lead to eternal life. The teachings of Jesus lead to love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, compassion, and all of those sorts of things. These are all available as part of the teachings of Jesus. They lead to life, and they lead to a good life now, but they lead to eternal life in the future in his eternal kingdom. They improve our life now, and they will improve our life forever. So this is an analogy with this wine. He gave good wine, which then glorified the bridegroom, the man at the feast. And in the same way, when he gives us this good wine, it lifts us up as well. We are upbuilt through the teachings that he gives us, and we are glorified through the teachings that he gives us because we have this ability to be changed into the image of Jesus Christ, who is in the image of the Father, and God is love. And so that's what we see. And he's showing here the steward said in verse 10, and the steward said to them, "Every man serves the good wine first, and when men have drunk freely, then the poor wine." And that's what happens. People do good things first, and then they give them the junk. You go to a wedding and they pay for all the good stuff. When they run out of the good stuff, then they give them the rubbish. He says, no, this is not what Jesus has done. They actually started with the rubbish. I mean, it was probably the best wine that the bridegroom could afford, but by comparison, clearly it was rubbish. They started with the rubbish, just like us. We start with rubbish. We are rubbish. When we begin, before we come to Christ in this world, we are beset with all of the weaknesses of the flesh. We have all of the passions and desires and lusts of human nature. We walk in sin. We sin on a regular basis. We live in sin, and there is no hope. We are rubbish. But when we come to Christ and we get the good wine, the good teachings, then we are lifted up. Then we are no longer rubbish, but we are transformed into the good wine. We are transformed from something ordinary like water into something marvelous like this wine that he produced that was the best wine ever. And we are changed and transformed so that we can be like him. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to learn how to be like him. And this is it. So this was the first sign that Jesus is at Cana. And as you can see, there's a lot of things that you can learn out of this one simple act of turning water into wine. We have now got to this place where we are being transformed. Just as the water was being transformed into wine when we come to Christ, we're being transformed into the image of the Father, the image of Jesus Christ, who is the image of the Father. And this transformation was quite quick in the case of the wine. The stewards or the servants, they drew the water out of the purifying jars, and then from the time that they drew it out to the time they carried it to the steward of the feast, it was transformed into wine. For us, it takes a bit longer. For us, we start this walk now, but when the Lord returns, he will go through us and we will come into the place of perfection in due course and in due time. So anyway, I want to finish there on that particular part there. So this is John from the Free Gift from God.com podcast. I'm signing off now until next week, and I hope you join me again when we look more into these words of Jesus and to the teachings that he taught so that we can learn what he had to say and be able to discern the truth from the error. So until next week, this is John signing off, and I hope you have a great week ahead.